people. Well, I see, every time I say that, then 3 more people come in the chat. Paige, are you okay admitting folks so I can start talking? Okay, great. So welcome. I really did mean it when I said welcome to the Jack Alotto fan club. But I will back up a little bit. If we have not met before, hello, my name is Sharon Goodson, and I work for the Leech Tag Foundation in San Diego County, California. Happy to have all of you with us today. We have a bunch of folks I know who participate in our programs throughout San Diego County, and I'm happy to see all of you. And because we have a speaker of a internationally renowned speaker, Jack Alotto, who is a very dear friend to many of us, and a wonderful mentor and a wonderful everything. I'm excited to see those of you who are joining us from outside of the area. Just a little bit about us, in case you'd like to take advantage of the things that we offer, which you are very welcome to do. So one reason that Jack and I are such good friends is because we believe passionately on and on that anything that we can do to help build the capacity and sustainability of nonprofits and our wonderful colleagues doing the important frontline work, we want to do. So we were just together in Seattle for the AFP Icon conference, and just, one conversation after another, and what more can we do? So here in our neck of the woods, we offer a Friday conversation called Fundraising Fridays, which will have its 5th anniversary on June 13th, if you'd like to come. This is just an informal conversation that we have every week. We started it shortly after the pandemic began, and it's just a great opportunity for people to ask questions and get advice. And we have fundraisers, we have nonprofit execs at small shops, communications folks. And over the 5 years, we've amassed a lot of great resources, and people have raised funds based on something they've learned in those meetings, as well as found staff, found jobs, had partnerships, etc. We're very proud of it. So if it is something that, Paige, wonderful, thank you. So my wonderful colleague, Paige, who I had not introduced, Paige Milgram Hills, is my partner at the Hive at Leech Tag. The Hive is our Center for Nonprofit Development. So that's where all of our stuff falls into. She just put the link in for Fundraising Fridays. There's no cost. You come whenever you like. And then we do from time to time these workshops, these webinars. And so if you're on our e-list, which now you will be because you registered for this, you'll find out about our things. There's also no cost involved with those. We also work closely with a couple of our professional networks, AFP San Diego and the North County Philanthropy Council, and collaborate on a number of their programs. So we'll often be sharing those opportunities as well. So that is a little bit about us. We are recording this session, and Jack also has a PowerPoint presentation that he's going to share too. And so this afternoon or tomorrow, we'll share the link to the recording and a copy of the PowerPoint so that everybody has everything that we have provided. So in the case that you don't know Jack Alotto, that is okay. So I told you all the wonderful things about him, but he has many years of fundraising experience in a wide range of nonprofits, but a lot of art experience, a lot of social service, environmental organizations. He is one of the national representatives for CFRE. So that's the Certified Fundraising Executive credential that many in the field get. And he offers a prep course that is very popular and very successful for people wanting to sit for that exam. He might want to share a little bit about that. But you're in very good hands. So I am going to turn it over to Jack. And I will be here monitoring the chat. This is going to be very much an open conversation, a little bit like probably Fundraising Fridays, where We want to hear what's going on. We want to hear your concerns. But Jack will kind of give you the structure for that. Okay, enough from me. Thank you
Great.
all.
Well, thank you. Thanks everybody for attending. I see some old friends out there. Janet, how are you? Good to see you. And Jenny from Oklahoma. How are you doing, Jenny? Are you in Oklahoma or are you in San Francisco right now? Where are you? You're not in Oklahoma.
I'm
Where
in
are you, Jenny?
I'm in Ohio. You got the
Ohio.
start right. You got the first part right.
No, it begins with a no. I throw them all together, and she's a recent CFRE, and of course James T. And by the way, guys, I'm a fan. I'm part of the Sharon Goodson fan club. I know she said that about me, but definitely she is. James is great. James T. from Austin, Texas said, "Put in chat where you are from, what you do, network. Now's the time to do that." So, both Sharon and I are certified facilitators through AFP. There are about, I don't know, I think Sharon, there are about 40 of us. And it's great. I always like to say there is a progression in fundraising. It starts with fundamentals, which by the way, I am teaching right now for AFP Global on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then you move on. Hopefully you get your CFRE. And certainly I'm a CFRE ambassador for San Diego and the wine country, which is my favorite place to visit. Who doesn't want to be an ambassador to the wine country? I mean, seriously. And Los Angeles and of course the Bay Area. And right now, I am sitting in the Coachella Valley. No concerts going on right now. I'm always on the lookout for Beyonce. Haven't seen her yet, but I know she travels and hangs out here quite a bit. Um, Today, we're going to talk about fundraising during challenging times. And I really have tried to put together as many challenges and solutions that I could find. It's a short number of slides, only 11 slides. There I am. That's my email. Guys, you could connect with me about CFRE, fundamentals of fundraising, anything that you would like to talk about. I am available to do that. Any fundraising topic. I am a CFRE. I just renewed my CFRE, and it's the fifth time I've renewed it. So you renew it every 3 years. So I've just determined that I must be 15-year mark of being a CFRE. When I took the test, it was quite different than it is now, but it is a great credential. I'm a big, huge fan of it. So I hope this to be as interactive as possible. I want you to uh, ask me questions in chat, raise your hand, whatever it is. Sharon and Paige are going to be looking at chat. Don't interrupt me. They're gonna say, "Hey, stop for a minute and let's talk about this." So I think the first thing, what challenges I think that we face as we move forward in fundraising. And what's the point of talking about challenges if we don't give you some strategies to deal with those challenges? And I always like to say this, it's all about you. What you bring to fundraising is going to help you deal with some of the challenges you are facing. And of course, every challenge I see as an opportunity. When I do SWOT analysis and they talk strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities, every weakness is an opportunity. Every challenge is an opportunity. So I hope we get to this, and I want you guys to help me identify some challenges that maybe I haven't, but also identify some solutions to those challenges. So what are some of the challenges we're facing right now? Well, with change in leadership in Washington, D.C., we are certainly looking at some economic challenges. And government is changing. I mean, I've talked with people just 2 days ago. I was talking to somebody in Atlanta, Georgia, who worked for Girl Scouts. And it's hard to believe, but Girl Scouts has received some government funding, and they were recently cut off of their government funding. Now, who could cut Girl Scouts off? I have no idea, but I know they have been cut off. They had a grant from the Department of Labor with several chapters of the Girl Scouts. So that is happening. The second thing that we're seeing is changing donor priorities. Donors are changing. And I'm going to give you 2 or 3 examples of how they've changed just based upon giving last year. Every year we do that USA Giving Report. It's a thing that several organizations, including AFP Global, do together, and so they have uncovered some interesting things that I think we should talk about. The third thing is digital fundraising and the rise of mobile giving and social media campaigns. Let's talk a little bit about those. And as I said earlier, changes in donor behavior. What's happening with donors and how they are changing. Then the last 2 topics I want to talk about is creating community engagement. I am a huge proponent of community-centric fundraising. Now, when I do run study groups for CFRE, I don't really talk about community-centric fundraising where you're involving beneficiaries and clients in the important work you do in a really meaningful way. But typically we talk about donor-centric fundraising, but I want to bring the community into our process of fundraising. That's changing. That's going to be a challenge for you. It's growing by leaps and bounds. And finally, technology. Technology is affecting us. The rise of AI is pretty amazing, artificial intelligence. So we're going to talk about some ways that you could use some of these challenges and create opportunities for them. As I said earlier, there's lots of uncertainty around these 5 topics. And I think it's important for us to get prepared. So how do we get prepared? First off, a big thing is going to happen in the US. And I don't know if we have any Canadians on this Zoom call. Janet, yes, I love my Canadian friends. Welcome. So this probably wouldn't affect you, Janet, but in the US, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 is up for renewal. So I urge you all to be on the lookout because there's going to be lots of discussions around the rules that govern charitable giving here in the States. Lots more discussions about that. In fact, of course, we're going to see a huge reduction in government funding, and we've seen a huge reduction in government funding at Meals on Wheels, Girl Scouts. Anyone in this Zoom call has seen any reduction in funding in any area? Please unmute yourself. Tell us what you are experiencing and what those cutbacks mean to your organization. Anyone?
Hey, Jack, I'll jump in.
Sure.
Here in Austin, IACT first navigated the funding portal being closed for our refugee programs. And we navigated that for 3 months until the court order required the administration to reopen it. But then we were informed that the 2026 contract would not be renewed. And so right now, I'm looking at a $2 million hole in my
Wow.
budget. And so
Wow.
I've got a lot of anxiety in my organization right now.
Oh, I'm sure. Have you guys talked about that's a huge challenge. $2 million. I don't know what your overall budget is, James, but $2 million sounds like a big hit. Is it specifically around immigration?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the government contract that we had, which is $2 million, and it's all refugee services based.
all refugee services, yeah.
Yeah, and so if anybody else is on this call that has worked with Catholic Charities, they're also in the mix. We are one out of, I think it was 79 organizations in the state of Texas who did refugee services. We're only one of 5 that
Wow.
did not lay off staff or close their doors.
Yeah. Well,
and that's
that's
across the
amazing.
state
So
of Texas. So
well, so James, I'm sure that your organization, which is the Interfaith Council, right? Give me the correct title of your organization.
Interfaith Action of Central Texas.
Okay, so it's all of the faith-based organizations that are working in Texas, Catholics,
Yes,
Episcopalians, Protestants, Jewish communities, maybe
correct.
even Muslim uh, faith-based organization. So do you have any plans? How are you planning to meet this? Are there any plans to meet this challenge? What are you guys
We,
talking about?
the conversation that we're having right now is basically around reorganization. We will not stop our refugee services, but we
Yes.
know it's going to get cut back drastically. We're also reaching out to foundations, not only in the Austin and Central Texas area, but across the state and across the nation to see whether or not they will step in and help bridge the gap that we're going to see. And we're calling it a 3-year, uh, not just one, we're seeing it for the next 3 years.
Yeah,
And I will add, but we're not even guaranteed that if this administration or tenor of this administration changes in 3 years, that we
yeah,
ever get back to where we were.
yeah. I think that's one of the extreme challenges, whether it's immigration services or feeding programs or any kind of social services that has some government funding. Yeah, you might the interruption is so incredibly damaging to a nonprofit. Even though it might come back, it may take decades to really build up that program again.
Mhm.
Anyone else experiencing any problems or go ahead, Janet.
Hey everybody, this is calling you from sunny and non-snowy Calgary, Alberta. We're seeing everything that's happening down in the States, and we are not immune to what's going on. So just in a nutshell, our government prorogued, in other words, it got suspended in January. We had a new party, one of our parties elected a new leader. We just went through our election. And what's happening is the tariffs your administration has imposed on Canada, your biggest trading partner, has seen a contraction in our donations. Like we saw it severely. We run a charitable raffle for 2 months to support our schools, and we saw it contract by 79% year over
Wow.
year. That
Wow.
was startling, and I pinpointed it right to January 20th when your president announced he was imposing sanctions on tariffs on Canada. We're struggling in the sense that we didn't know where we were going as a nation, so to speak, because it's like, okay, so our government's prorogued, the prime minister is going to step down, but the party needs a new leader. Now we have to call an election. Well, as a Catholic, God bless that we have Mark Carney now as our prime minister, who has led two federal banks, Canada and the UK's federal bank, during very tumultuous times. And he's coming across as a very compassionate leader. He's Catholic. He's going to visit the new Pope. Congratulations, by the way. Um, the markets are starting to change a bit, but Canadians, like, we're feeling the impact at the grocery store. We're feeling the
Sure.
impact on the automotive sector. Our automotive sector has been integrated for 40 years in North America. How do you tariff a part that was built in Mexico, assembled in Canada, and finally, like, final assembly is in the USA? Like, it makes no
Yeah.
sense, right? Like, so your chaos that that you're living, we're witnessing, and the ripple effect is happening right here. So we're seeing it in a contraction on our donations. Our
Yeah.
Alberta Teachers Association is poised to strike September 1st. We have our charitable golf tournament happening in August, and I'm like, oh God, I know I'm going to be led through this, but enough already, right? Like
Yeah.
Jack and I, he's been a great mentor, so he's seen my posts on social media where I'm like, enough already. But yeah, we're seeing it. So we don't
So,
get as much funding from our governments for our charities. Like there are grants and whatnot, but we're even seeing that contraction. Of course, I
sure.
live in oil-rich Alberta who thinks they can separate. Like that's what we're dealing with right now. Like it's
And that's
just
terrible. Yeah,
one piece of crap after another
I
politically
know.
and geopolitical, and it's just like, okay, it's summertime. I'm going to enjoy the sunshine. I'm going to enjoy that my church has a new pope and that we're heartened and somebody
Right,
is leading the way, but we're all going to come together and see that our charities survive this.
right.
We're still recovering, folks, from
Yeah,
COVID. Right?
I
Like
know.
we're
Yeah,
still getting that footing and James, yeah, it's going to take 3 to 5 years to recover if you get your funding
sure.
back and the impact that it's happened. So
So Janet, so have you seen donations decline?
so it's a little bit of a catch-22. I've seen general donations decline, but I've seen community support increase. Like when I do a targeted campaign for a school, I see that. If I do a
Mhm.
targeted campaign for one of our programs, I see that, right? Like it's
Yeah,
so people are not willing to give to the general fund that kind of helps us keep the lights on, but
yeah,
they're willing to go, yeah, you know what? I'm going to help the pregnant and parenting teens in the school district, or I'm going to help build this playground, or I'm going to make sure that the endowment fund for Notre Dame High School has
yeah,
a scholarship for next year, right? So that targeted one, when I can curate that message, thanks to technology, thanks to AI, ChatGPT, thank God, helps us, you know, streamline some stuff. But I'm seeing that go up, but our general donations have definitely dropped by like 70 to 80% this year.
wow. Well, that brings me to the next topic on the PowerPoint that you're seeing. So one other thing about government before I move on to economic downturns, governments threatening to revoke nonprofit status, that's a challenge. And it's scary for me. And I think the two things that we have to be very cognizant of, and Janet, thank you for sharing, the integration of our economy, our politics with the Canadian government and politics. It's really an eye opener for many Americans who work in the nonprofit sector, especially me. So economic downturns, I mean, we're hearing so many predictions, that prices are going to go up and we're going to see a recession. And I think as it relates to government, we have to really be at really watching what our government is doing, especially with this reauthorization of the bill from 2017. That's an opportunity for us to write our politicians and say, look, guys, enough with uh, turning against nonprofits, whether it's universities or downsizing funding to them. Really communicate with our leadership around that. One of the things that I've seen over and over again when I look at economic downturn research is the importance of nonprofits to recession proof or economic downturn proof your organization. Research in economic bad times, research indicates that the most successful organizations who can weather an economic downturn, or the first thing that's listed on this slide, is to really invest in peer-to-peer fundraising. It's one of the few, I should say, vehicles that will sustain your organization through an economic downturn, because peers have a hard time saying no when their peers all ask them for a gift. So I really urge you to look at peer-to-peer. It's most effective. And I think the way to do that with your volunteers, with your board members, etc., is to ask them to create fundraising pages on their Facebook account or in LinkedIn or any of the various social media things that they use. I put natural disasters up here because I'm intrigued by how fundraising is so effective when we have a natural disaster. And the reason why is that during natural disasters, donors give based on emotion. They are reactive givers. And I love that. I love the idea that we are able to, during a natural disaster, to ask people to react quickly by making a gift. And I've been thinking about this. How do we do this outside of natural disasters? How do we make them reactive? And actually, it is happening with some charities here in the US. For example, National Public Radio, NPR, or PBS, which are now, under hearing that they're going to lose their status, they're going to lose their government funding. Their gifts are going up, guys, because people are reactive giving. The American Civil Liberties Union, gone up. Planned Parenthood, gone up. I think one way we could deal with natural disasters or other kinds of disasters like loss of funding is to make our donors understand that this is a crisis. This is a disaster in the making. I've seen so many things about the Sesame characters, Elmo, etc., being put out and put upon. I love the way that some organizations are doing that. So make peers get involved in fundraising and can include consistent messaging about what is happening in your organization. One of the best examples I see of reactive giving is when I come out of the Safeway store, guys, and I see a mom standing there with 2 children. I want to give her a couple bucks. That's reactive giving. We want to immediately impact that problem that she's having. Or it's very emotional. Reactive giving is very emotional. So think about ways. Does anybody have any ways that they might be able to instill in people that emotional giving? Do you see that happening? Any organization? Just unmute yourself, guys.
I was gonna say also, Jack, that your point of communicating with donors, so I've seen some really good communications also say that, this is a disaster time, but we're watching it, we're on it,
Yep.
kind of like what Janet was just going through, that, you can trust our leadership that to the extent that we should be knowing things, we are, we are taking advantage of all learning and et cetera. Because I think, we hear over and over that donors, they're really trusting in the leadership, and, I work for a foundation and that's our number one. We know that, different things can come and go, but if you have excellent leaders, they can get
Yep.
through it. So I
Right.
think instilling that message.
No, Sharon, and that brings me to a point which I have in my notes is every organization, and you don't have to call it a disaster fund, but we all should create some fund, emergency fund, call it what you want. If you're in the arts, it could be an emergency fund to support the arts or social services or faith-based organizations or education. Create one. When I worked in healthcare way back in the Stone Age, before there was anesthesiology. No, there was anesthesiology. Okay. We had all kinds of things. But one of the things that we did at one of the hospitals, we created an employee emergency fund for employees, and it was so successful. People wanted to give to that emergency fund. So no matter what the organization is, if it's healthcare, it's the arts, consider creating a fund specifically restricted to emergencies. It could be disasters or it could be something else. But I really like that concept. You can create as many funds as you want. Sometimes we do a board restricted fund that the board decides. Maybe you want to convert that to an emergency fund that the board has control over. Jenny.
Yeah, I just wanted to share at a previous organization I worked at in higher ed. We were very successful with this. We created at the college I was at a student emergency fund, and it was for small, urgent needs by the students. You know, their car broke down and they couldn't get it repaired, so they weren't going to be able to make it to class. And we could speak to very specific, tangible ways that those gifts made a difference, and it was really popular. And then we also had I think it was called a graduation fund or something to that effect, but it was also sort of student in their last term couldn't quite get together the resources they needed, and this was the last hurdle to graduation, and that was also very compelling.
I love that. I
Awesome.
love those examples. Thanks so much, Jenny. I think that's
Also,
so important. Go ahead, Sharon.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Erica had a really good question, a little bit what we were just talking about, but balancing the messaging, for reactive giving without coming off with a scarcity mindset.
Oh, I love that question. Yes. I think if I were creating an emergency fund, let's say it's for education, I would not talk about scarcity. First of all, who would be the donors most likely to give to that? Probably your current donors, an additional gift to that. That's what you want to do. You want to motivate your current donors to make an additional gift to support, sustain. You could call it a sustaining fund to sustain the organization through rough times. I think that you could do with that. Um, Scarcity implies that there's only a limited number of resources. I don't think we're there yet. I think our donors are fully engaged in what's happening in the environment that we live in. And we just need to message them about, hey, we're creating this not because we're there yet, but it may be down the road and we want to be ready. I always like to say, if in 2019, some of these organizations had these emergency funds, when COVID hit in 2020, they would have survived it. So I'm urging you all to consider doing that. David?
Yeah, I think that one of the messages that can also underscore the good leadership of the organization can essentially be, for years we've been really intentional about building a rainy day fund. It's pouring right now and we need your help, right?
Yeah.
One
I like that.
One other thing, Jack.
Go ahead.
And now I'm going to bring in CFRE. If you remember Rosso's concentric circles,
Yeah.
who's in the center of those circles? Your major donors, your leadership are in the center of those circles. And for my organization, when we went out and did a gap appeal, we explained to them what was going on, and we asked them to do what they could, and they stepped up in a huge way. When I looked at who was giving, it's our major donors.
Yep.
Those are the ones.
Yep.
And then to talk about crisis and stuff, I actually pushed back against my communications guy who wanted to say all the time, we're in crisis, we're in crisis. And I said, no, our conversation is going to be about shared values.
Wow. I love that, James.
And shared values around a mission. And we had nothing but positive response to that, because crisis, one of the things that I heard from another person was, you put it in a person's mind, well, will you be here?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you talked about shared values and mission, you're taking that question off the table. It's like,
I love that.
we share these values, this is our mission, and we're committed to that mission.
Yeah. That's a great answer to the question that Sharon gave us from chat. Focus on shared values, focus on advancing mission, and less about we may not survive. I don't like appeals that say, unless you give, we're going to go out of business. I don't think it works, guys. It may work one time, but then you can never use it again when it really happens. So I don't really like that kind of thing. But this fits right with the next topic, donors. And I have to ask, will donors keep on giving? I think Janet talked about her experience in Canada. I'm sure here in the States, we're seeing similar things. Will donors keep on giving in the same way and at the same level. What do you guys think? If you, you think we're going to see a change in donor giving, guys, going forward? Tell me about it. Let's share it with one another and how we might deal with giving. Anyone?
Well, I'm new to fundraising, but I had a conversation with my boss a couple of weeks ago about the tough time that our organization is going through or might be going through. And
Mhm.
she said it looks like we are headed toward an economic recession, maybe even a depression. And that when that happens, even people who have a lot of money aren't as loose with it because they're preparing for the time that's coming. And they're like, I'm going to keep that
Yeah,
close
yeah.
now. So that's been on my mind.
That's a huge challenge you're describing, Caroline. It's a huge challenge. And I think, you know, back to something I said earlier about that emergency fund that we heard several people talk about, creating some cushion of money now before it happens or starting it and talking to our current donors. James had a great point. Major gift donors, your board, your staff, and then smaller donors, they're all part of your circle. They're giving to you because of values. And to sustain those values, you need to build up some resource, some cushion against the bad times. I'll tell you this. Now is the time, guys. If this first thing, if we're worried that donors may not give at the same level or in the same way or at the same rates, now is the time to double our efforts around communication and stewardship and cultivation, guys. You have those skills. Bring them and bring them hard, bring them strong, and do it. Cultivation, stewardship, that's what keeps donors. Remember, I think if you think about all of the things, and I have like, I don't know, 6 things that I think you should remember to do to keep those donors giving. 1, keep them close. Bring them closer to your organization. Talk to them about your challenges. One of the things that has driven me crazy as a fundraiser is when I read things that talk only about success. People want to give to your challenges, guys. If you're running a homeless shelter, for example, and you say we were unable to house homeless teenagers last year, that's a challenge. And donors are going to sit there and say, we should give to that. We should help them over that challenge. Donors want to give to your challenges. They've already given to your success. They're future focused. Solving your future challenges is where you want to go. So keep them close. Talk about your challenges. Make them feel like insiders. How do you make a donor feel like an insider? Anyone, unmute yourself. I love to hear any strategies, any opportunities you see in making donors feel like insiders. How do you do it?
I have asked for their input on future things that we're doing.
Excellent, Erica. Yes, ask for their input. Anything else? Anyone?
I think one thing that we saw during COVID, which worked really well, was some of the even virtual coffees that organizations would host with their CEOs or board chairs to talk about the issues at a high level, because you've got, one thing that the donors already love you. They already love what
Yep.
you're doing. And to kind of bring them in with special access to the thought leaders can be very powerful.
Yeah. And I think that's a great example of creating investors, making them investors in the work that you do. I mean, that's the language of business. I mean, instead of donors, maybe we should talk about investing in solving the problem of poor nutrition in children, or solving gang violence in the community, or ending homelessness. Invest in ending homelessness. Make them investors. the more they feel like insiders, when you ask for advice, as Erica said, or ask their opinion, or ask anything about the work you do, okay? And I'm going to give an example of one of the things that I thought in the last few months was the best thing I ever did. I did some consulting work for a healthcare system. And what I did, whenever I do consulting work, I always make a small donation to the organization because I want to see how they deal with a gift. And this specific organization, what they did was they sent me a new donor survey. They sent me a survey with a very limited number of questions. How was your, I did it online. How was your experience in making a gift online? When you read our website, what did you find notable? What was important to you? All open-ended questions. How did you like our open page? How was our response to your gift? How quickly was our response? Did you feel that you understood what the value of your gift did in advancing our mission? I love that new donor survey. Those of you who have a welcome packet for donors or any donors, and it doesn't have to be, you can send this out anytime, guys. This is really relatively inexpensive. They send it to me in an email. I wrote it out and sent it back in an email. I filled it out and sent it back in an email. Because you know what? I felt so valued as a donor. It really made me feel good. And one of the things that they did, aside from asking for advice, they said to me in this survey, during these challenging times, how are you doing, Jack? How is, it's not just about the challenging times that we are experiencing as nonprofit leaders and fundraisers and nonprofit organizations. We should be asking our community of donors how they're doing. Okay, that's really important. I love asking for advice. I love surveying them, whether it's a new donor or just a donor who's given for several years. Let's do a check-in, guys. Let's do a 5-question survey to donors who have given for the last 5 years. Is there anything you would like to know about our organization's mission, our vision, our values? And be responsive to them. Survey them. Listen to them when you get those surveys back. Listen to them. Another way to keep your donors giving is to connect to them on impact that they are making to solve some problem. If you're at the Oceanside Museum of Art, and I have a nephew who lives in Oceanside, and he better get him and his wife and their son over to that museum or I'm going to disown him, okay? If you're at the Oceanside Museum of Art, okay, and ask them, you ask your donors, what did you like about the last exhibit you went to? What do you think we should be doing differently? Would you like to see a different type of exhibit? Is it easy to get into the museum? What's parking like? Ask your donors those kind of things. The second thing, which is really a big challenge for us right now, is to look at giving trends. You know what happened last year, guys? We had fewer donors, but they were making larger gifts. What does that mean to you guys? Anyone, just unmute yourself. What does it mean when the USA giving, I don't know if this happens, Janet, in Canada as well, but we're seeing fewer donors making larger gifts. What does that mean to us as nonprofits?
For us,
Anyone?
Jack, in Canada, you alluded to it earlier that funding in your tax code may change for nonprofits. Before our government dissolved before the next election, there was a committee that was looking to remove charitable status to religious organizations in our country. That is huge, right? Think about the churches, think about the mosques, the Sikh temples, the Jewish temples, any of our organizations, right? Like in healthcare or social services, like this is hugely impactful. And so we did see some of our, we actually, from our perspective, we actually obtained a few more donors who were like, well, we're going to continue to support your cause because we believe in your value system. So that's been an interesting conversation to have with these new donors who've popped in and made that pledge. We also have something on the books. I'm not sure. I haven't gone back to see if it's going to be carried through with this new government, but they were looking to increase the taxation threshold for stocks and securities. Um, and I can't think of the words right now of what the actual term is, but a lot of people were holding back on their donations towards charities that they would normally do in stocks and investment because they were like, well, I'm going to be taxed more, so why would I give you a donation when it should have been tax-free at that point?
Hmm. So I think what it means is the fewer donors making bigger gifts, that it's no longer about thousands of donors making smaller gifts. And I have mixed feelings about that, guys. I love those small donations. I work for Catholic Charities, Janet, and I remember getting an envelope with two $1 bills in it, or $5, or any organization that you could think of. So we're going to lose those if we don't figure out how to keep them. And I get it. It costs money and it takes a lot of time to work with those smaller donations. Everybody wants the big gifts. Everybody wants, Mackenzie Scott to drop in from the heavens and give them $100 million or whatever. Okay. And I hope she does. I mean, eventually she's going to run out of money at the rate she's going, which I'm happy to see. But I think it's important that we still build deep, meaningful connections with all of our donors, but especially with those donors who are making the bigger gifts. So I'm going to end that little part of the discussion with saying you have to create, you have to emphasize, and you have to manage a successful major gift program, guys. Create, emphasize, and manage a successful major gift program. Let me tell you a well-known secret that I say every time I talk about major gifts. Every single potential major gift donor to your organization is in your database. They're there, guys. You just have to find them. And maybe technology, our next topic, will be able to help with that. So all of the major, here's the reason why I say all of your major gift prospects are already in your database, because very few donors come to your organization the first time with a major gift. Where they start is in that annual campaign. And when they make a gift of $25 or $50, they're testing you guys. They're testing you to see how effective you are at stewardship, how effective you are at gratitude, thankfulness, impact, recognition. Okay. So don't lose sight of those smaller gifts, because that is where you're going to find your major gift donors. Okay. So technology, especially AI, it kind of, I was talking to somebody just yesterday about AI, and I know people right now, Janet and James and Sharon and all the people on this call who have CFREs, Jenny, I think, I don't know if you used AI to help you with studying for CFRE. I'm hearing a lot of CFRE candidates now going forward are using AI. And we talked about that. I talked about with some employees from AFP Global, and I said, I'm a guy who never uses AI. You know why? Because I want my writing, blogs, articles, whatever it is that is being published, to be authentic. So, but AI is here to stay. Who's using AI? Which of you guys unmute yourself? Tell me about Caroline. Let's start with you. Go for it. What are you using? How are you using it?
I use AI every day as a grant writer, and
Okay.
I used to be anti-AI because I'm a creative writer too, and I value my own voice. Um, for grant writing specifically, I find it very helpful. Usually what I do is I come in to AI with a solid first draft. All the content is there, everything I want emphasized is already emphasized, and everything's in the order I want to be I want it to be in. Then,
Right.
because for me, as a creative writer, I value subtlety, but as a grant writer, I have to give what I'm, these client stories and grant requests to people who are reading a lot and need the points to really pop out.
Wow.
So I say to AI, take this and edit it for emotional resonance and
Oh,
clarity. And
beautiful.
so it edits it for emotional resonance and clarity. And then I take it back and do my own third draft because sometimes it went too far or
Yeah.
sometimes it made an edit that I didn't like.
Sometimes
So
it has you crying as you're reading it.
sometimes I'm like, darn, that's pretty good. I feel a little embarrassed. But
Uh,
I think that, I've learned to use it in a way that I feel like my voice is still there and it doesn't take from the work I'm doing, but um
it,
it's like a good editor. And we
yeah,
would never
good.
tell a writer not to use we would
Yeah,
never tell a writer not to use an editor who's
yeah,
efficient
right.
and
Okay.
talented. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, yeah, good.
Exactly.
Janet,
And I was
go ahead.
just going to say with AI, it becomes attuned to your writing style,
Oh,
Hmm.
right?
nice.
Do you find that, Caroline? Like,
Yeah.
like for me, I'm going to be like, hey, I want a Catholic lens on this, but it knows not to go too strong,
Hmm.
because I walk that fine balance at the foundation because I like to tell people I don't preach and I don't teach because I work within both realms of our diocese and the school district. But
Hmm.
so it's picking up on those cues, and it also knows like I'm never going to have a hard ask. It's always going to be an invitation that comes
Hmm.
through, right? So yeah, I'm a creative writer as well, but given our staffing levels, it's like I got to rely on this right now.
Great. Anybody else using AI? Just unmute yourself. I want to hear about it. Anyone?
Yeah, I can go. So my position is currently membership and development, which is
Okay.
huge. I'm the
Yeah.
only full-time person in the development department right now.
Oh,
I
yeah.
communicate from my personal email with all of our members and lots of donors on a pretty regular basis. And so it's really been such a time saver. I even will use it just to like come up with a creative subject title for an email campaign that's going out to
Nice.
members or prospective
Nice.
members. And like I like being creative. I work in a creative place. I work at an art museum. But like it's just so like efficient to do it right
Nice.
now with like my limited time. And actually since I have been using it for 2 years, recently I haven't had to add a lot of edits to it. The last time I had it write a campaign email for me, I actually didn't edit anything. It like kind of had my tone pretty spot on.
Nice. I like that. I think it's really important, and maybe the three of you and others have researched which AI tools are best for you. And I think that's the number one key that I want you to take away from this last point on the slide. You have to find the AI tools that are best for the work you do. But here's something I think is really critical in my understanding of AI. And I don't, in fact, Sharon and you and I talked about that book. There was only one book about AI at AFP Global in Seattle, which I thought was very disappointing considering its tremendous growth. Maybe Sharon, you and I need to collaborate and write a book on AI. First, I better figure out what it is before I write a book on it. But yes, but here's the thing about it. You have to put guardrails in place. And you know what? Caroline said that. She's the third editor. That's her guardrail. That's important. That is a really important point as a guardrail. You know what another guardrail is? Confidentiality. Don't upload your donor base to AI because then it's out there in the world. Okay. And all that confidential information will make things very hard for you if it gets out there. Remember this too, guys, and this is from my brief reading. I will tell you right now that AI will never replace you as fundraisers. It's just not going to happen. Fundraising is a relationship building. Now, maybe in the future, there will be robots that will build relationships with us, but not with this guy, but maybe, the next generation. Okay. Here's what AI can do. I think the most important thing that AI can do for you, and the challenge is that you got to learn about it. The opportunity is that AI will personalize everything. You can analyze donor behavior by running queries with AI. You can personalize communications specifically to specific segments that AI creates. You can find high value gift prospects with AI and then tailor the cultivation you do to those high value prospects based on what AI generated for you. But remember this, be ethical, be transparent, use AI, but let your heart and your ethics lead the way. Remember this about donors, guys. And this is a problem that I see for AI. Remember that donors value authenticity. That's what they want from you guys. And if it doesn't come out in the work that you write, emails, whatever, it's gonna show up. There's lots of downsides to AI. You could read them in my notes when you get these later or when they're sent out. Let's
Jen,
talk about,
oh,
go ahead.
if I could just interrupt for a sec. So LaRonda had a question a little earlier too about communications with major donors. And she's asking here the type of AI platform that folks are using. So
Yeah.
just to make sure we don't lose.
Anybody using AI platform with major gift donors? Anybody to communicate with, to craft messages, channels, understand channels that you're using, anything?
Yeah, Jack,
Go ahead, James.
for my most recent gala, before the gala even started, I had ChatGPT provide me how I was going to steward and cultivate my first time donor, my lapsed donor, and my repeat donor.
Oh,
And then and it's not for me to do it all. It was, I had basically my directors, my ED, and my board also, and who's doing what. And we're following that to a T right now. But the other thing that I'm hearing in LaRonda's question is something that I'm looking for. The analyzing of donors is a different type of AI.
yeah.
ChatGPT is generative AI, so it generates messages and stuff like that. Predictive AI is where it takes your anonymized data and says, for this type of person, your next step should be this or this or this, but it's based upon their giving history. Giverly is, I think I'm saying that right, is the AI that is on my radar now, but I've
Okay.
been looking for that AI for the last year and a half.
Yeah. Good. James, maybe LaRonda wants to chat with you separately. Put your email in there, or anybody on this, put your email in chat and they could connect with you, because it sounds like you've done some good investigation into various AI technologies. Great. So wealth transfer, we are witnessing right now a $6 trillion transfer from baby boomers to millennials. But millennials are different than their parents. That's the challenge in communicating this. Remember this, and research that I looked at recently in the last week. Younger donors are cause driven and they want impact. And they really don't care about their parents giving the institutions that their parents gave. They're not following the lead of their parents. Okay. They want to be cause driven, they want to see impact, and they want to be more involved. Baby boomers want to write checks. They don't necessarily want to or have the time to volunteer. But millennials and those in younger generations, they're cause driven, they want impact. Okay. Remember to align your campaigns to their values and passions. So that's the challenge, and that's the opportunity to get more money, and you will. You know, millennials now are the largest population demographic in the world. Okay, so figure out how to communicate with them, figure out what their needs, their passions, their interests are, and go for it. The second big thing is donor advised funds, and research is the key here. Now, let me tell you 3 ways I think that we could figure out. Everybody always says to me, I don't know who was at the bottom of these donor advised funds. I don't know who's giving it. I don't know how to steward them. I don't know how to cultivate them. I think one of the challenges we have is to figure out who are our donor advised funds donors, okay? Our DAF donors. And I think that there are 3 ways to do that. Let me try and tell you, and if you guys have any other ways, I want you to unmute yourself and tell you. The first is to ask your processing team, whoever is processing donations, to be on the lookout for donor advised funds and to report to you immediately if you have the name of that donor or what that fund is, if it's an anonymous donor. That's number 1. Once you found them, steward them and build a relationship with them. Okay? Because a majority of DAF donors are major gift prospects. I can't emphasize that enough. When you see the notes later, you'll see that I bolded that. The majority of DAF donors are major gift prospects. 2, another way to find them is by asking your donors in that welcome survey if they have a donor advised fund. Now, Sharon may send a $50 gift to my organization. I send her a survey and I say, thank you. She wrote me a check or she did it online, whatever she did. And I say, thank you. And I send her a survey. Do you have a donor advised fund? And then she sends back, yes, I do. Then what happens? She immediately becomes a prospect for a larger gift. Okay. Back to that, asking your donors, ask them, do it through surveys or focus groups or however how you do it. Another way to find them is by asking your donors, as I said, in a welcome survey. And the third way, which I have actually seen happen in my own career, is I remember I did a short-term director of development role for the National Association for the Mentally Ill, NAMI is it what it's called, okay? And one of our board members, she had made gifts, significant gifts, major gifts from a donor advised fund. I went to her and I said, you know what? Instead of just giving me an outright, or the organization an outright gift, why don't you consider making it a matching gift from your donor advised fund? And we benefited so many ways from that. The first thing that happened is we got matching money. The second thing is she went to the company where her donor advised fund was housed, and she told them that she was going to use that a gift from her DAF as a matching gift, and she asked them to publish it in their newsletter that they send to their donors. So what she did is she gave a whole bunch of free publicity to a whole bunch of donor advised fund donors at a community foundation. And in their newsletter, they got, because I have a small DAF because I wanted to learn how they work. And I got that newsletter and it said, so-and-so is making a matching gift to this organization. If you're interested, here's the address. We got gifts larger than her match from people in that donor advised fund at that community foundation. So guys, think about, if you have a relationship with a DAF donor, ask them to do that. The second thing, or the third thing point on this, is monthly giving. Here's another secret. All of the potential prospects for monthly giving, guess where they are? They're in your database. Your job is to uncover, as I said earlier, major gift donors and monthly donors. Let me tell you what some of the characteristics are of a monthly giving donor. And by the way, getting recurring gifts is both a challenge and an opportunity. if there's an economic downturn coming to us all in our organizations, monthly giving is a way to save us. Seriously, and build up our donations. Here is the thing that monthly give, a predictable revenue stream, and it fosters donor loyalty. Loyal donors make planned gifts, guys. There is such a continuum in fundraising, such a process in fundraising that we really should be talk about. The way to build a monthly giving program is to build a platform that is convenient, mobile friendly, and inviting. Convenient, mobile friendly, and inviting. You'll see this in the notes later today. How do you find monthly donors? As I said, they're already in your database. Here is what a typical monthly donor looks at. They use a credit card, or they use an electronic funds transfer, and they give more than once a year. Any donor who gives more than once a year is a great prospect for a major gift donor. If at the museum, James gives the museum a gift for children's art for the permanent collection, let's say he gives 2 gifts a year, that's a donor who should be invited to make a monthly gift. So if you went through your database and you looked at all of the people who have the potential to make, who give more than once a year to different programs, then you need to talk with them. Digital and mobile, we know, we've seen it coming, text to give. They're easily accessible and they're flexible. What is a mobile donation platform? And you'll see it in the notes, as I said. People need to be able to use smartphones, guys, especially young people, to make a gift. You have to have the ability to take mobile donations and digital donations. Social media campaigns. I love social media campaigns. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. How do you create a viral campaign on social media? Guys, storytelling. That's how you create a viral campaign. Tell a story. Talk to people. Tell them the story of a client. And who is best to write that story? The client. I want to tell you, I worked at a healthcare hospital in Northern California. And some of you may have heard me say, I went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting and I met a sergeant in the police force. And we just started chatting. And he said, I was shot 6 times. I was shot by a person who was a drug dealer. And he told me the story of how it was him and another officer. They broke into the house and the first officer was fine. Him being the second officer, he was shot 6 times. And he said, I thought I was going to die. The only thing I could think about was my 12-year-old child. As I was in the ambulance, I noticed that we were going to the emergency room at Eden Medical Center. That's the healthcare facility I worked at. And I felt so much better that my life could have been saved. I had him write that story up. And of course, I edited it. And it was 4 paragraphs, very quick. He talked about the care, the nurses. He said the nurses kicked my butt to get me up walking and really took good care of me, and et cetera, et cetera. I put that in a direct mail campaign, and it was the most successful direct mail I've ever sent. He signed the letter. I did some editing, but that's storytelling, guys. In these social media campaigns, a short story like that can go viral, and it could be an incredible campaign for you. The most important thing about these social media campaigns is to have a clear call to action. Ask for a gift. Don't just tell the story. Stories are interesting. I read novels all the time. They're great, but they don't call me to go to, Walden's Pond to go swimming in Walden's Pond. There's no call to action. So have a call to action. Be clear, use relevant hashtags, partner with influencers, track results, and of course, use video. I love video as a way. It's a challenge. You know, at National University where I work, I've created 60-second videos for them to promote webinars I'm doing and put them on LinkedIn. It's free. It's free. You could do that. 67 video. Here's the most important thing about Giving Tuesday, which again is a social media campaign. Have a plan. Mobile strategies, there's mobile apps, there's QR codes, etc. Appeal to younger generations. I can't emphasize that enough. They're in the digital age. They're using digital. Market to them in the digital age. What that means: personalized and short events. So storytelling, etc. Let me talk briefly about community-driven fundraising. What is it? It's a program that prioritizes the needs and values of the community over individual donors. I know that's a total reset for donor-centric fundraising. It prioritizes the needs and values of the community over individual donor preferences. It emphasizes collective well-being of the community, and it involves a lot of segments, a lot of people. It involves donors, clients and beneficiaries, and staff at nonprofit organizations. It's really important. I mentioned storytelling. I think storytelling creates a deeper understanding of the mission of the organization. Keep it brief. Don't make very long, don't write a novel. Okay, I like to say this, and then we'll answer some questions. I want to spend some time. It's all about you. Okay, it's about you. And I like fundraisers to ask themselves 6 questions. Why are you doing this work, guys? Why are you here struggling and meeting challenges and trying to find opportunities and working with donors? Start with your why. Ask that question. Then ask yourself, what is my vision? And when you list your vision, think about how that would inspire others by clearly stating where you are heading. Your vision for you guys. I'm not talking about visions for the nonprofits. I'm talking about a vision that you would have for you. That's really important. The third thing is integrity. Maintain integrity between what the words you use and your actions. Let your actions reflect the words that you use. 4, build empathy. I am over fundraisers trying to get sympathy from donors to clients and beneficiaries. Move to empathy. Empathy really means they understand and feel and share the feelings of the people that you work with, clients and beneficiaries. There are ways to do that. Have you ever wondered why religious organizations, universities, and hospitals are the top 3 places where people give money to? And I think the reason is that if you were a patient in a hospital and you are told the story about another patient at that hospital, they become part of the in-group. You have empathy for them. You were there, okay? If you're an alumni at Jackaloto University, then you have that student sitting in that biology class is in your group. That's empathy for that student trying to get through those 4 years. And religion. Oh my Lord, I can't express this enough. There are in-groups. People who give to Catholic charities give to other organizations that they are in. They're in that group. Faith-based organizations are so good at this. So what we have to do, our challenge and our opportunity is to create empathy and bring donors, make them feel that the people we are working with in social services and are not some other group, but members of their group. Okay? I know I could spend another 2 hours talking about this because I am so hot on this. I just think it's so important. So build empathy, speak clearly, and listen, and then respond. Be accountable. Own your decisions and mistakes. Okay. Remember, accountability builds trust. When I've made mistakes in my career and I admitted to donors that I've made a mistake, like thank them for the wrong gift or put the wrong amount in their letter or just didn't take their call when I should, I owned it. When I owned it, that made me accountable and they trusted me more. And trust is accountability is the foundation of trust. Okay, briefly, I'm just going to say this that all of the challenges we've talked about today are opportunities, guys, and you could do it. You know, generosity isn't dying, it's evolving. Okay, consider things like, you know, what we're seeing from corporate giving. Consider cause related marketing and sponsorships. If corporate giving is falling as it is, then consider cause related marketing and sponsorship. I can't emphasize it enough. Prioritize donor retention, show gratitude, maintain regular communications, keep it mission focused, guys. Tell them what others are doing in the community to support similar causes. Let donors give small gifts through micro donations. I love this. Micro donations are pop-up events, and you could find those in my notes. A pop-up event would be something like somebody in a faith-based organization would say, hey, we have a homeless shelter. We need a new playground for kids who are in that homeless shelter. We're going to do a 3-hour remodel of a playground. Okay, that's a pop-up event. Diversify your revenue streams, create compassion and purpose in your donors. It's such an important thing. Get to know your donors, engage younger generations. Remember, the opportunities of donor advised funds are vast. Prioritize donor retention and diversify your asks and appeals. Give donors multiple reasons and multiple ways to give, guys. And remember, I'm a huge fan and advocate of asking donors questions. Create donor ambassadors. That's my final point today. Any questions?
That was excellent, excellent. I don't want to miss a question from Cynthia, who has a lot of experience as a donor and looks like also as a volunteer. Being sort of really wondering, how do you know that a request from an organization is real or AI?
Oh, I think that's I'm not sure I have a great answer for that, but I think that we have to trust people to see authentic request, and I think it was Caroline, I think, who said she's the third editor. If you use AI, and James, maybe you could speak to this, or Janet, if you use AI, how do you make sure it's an authentic ask, whatever it is? How would you do that? And I think it's by editing and looking at what they've created, AI has created, and say, does this really work? Does this sound like a human being wrote it? One reason why I don't, I have I'm not bragging, but I have 3 articles in Advancing Philanthropy since January. I didn't use AI for them because I want people to read my work with all of the silly syntax, bad grammar, misspellings, verbs that don't match the subject, improper pronouns in the wrong place, because that's me. That's my authentic self, and with the flaws of a human being. And it's funny, in talking with AFP Global, some people were agreeing with me. Some people in the development, in the professional development area, that I want to make mistakes and I want people to correct me.
Yeah, exactly, Jack. I always make sure that any images I use are actually ones that we have captured. So I don't use AI generated because nobody needs 6 fingers on one hand. Actually, on that note, we did have something funny happen to us a couple of years ago. One of our board members was on the committee to select the image on our Christmas card. And it was a beautiful image of, the manger and the animals around. And when our graphic designer got a hold of it, when we pulled it all together and said, hi, here's what we want in our Christmas card, she goes, is that really what you want? Because that looks like a headless turkey, which was supposed to be baby Jesus. And the other thing, like a sheep, but it was 2-headed six-legged. So yeah, we don't
Yeah.
use AI generated images, but more importantly for a Canadian, we put U's in our words. Neighbor has a U in it, folks. Not OR, it's OUR. That's when I go in and make sure those touch points, it's authentic that way,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
For me,
A.
the AI, so we're out and about. When I generate something on AI, that's my prompt. I've given it my prompt. Here's what I'm trying to create. Put it
Yeah.
together, take what's in my head and just kind of put it together for me. And then I take it out and go, okay, here's how I want to massage this and steward it. And
Nice.
this is my ask, right? So,
I love that.
And Janet just hit on the nail on the head. Uh, it is I give it the prompt, and quite honestly, the prompt that I use most often is, I need you to rewrite something that I've started with warmth, empathy, donor-centric, and then I might add another one when I want to make sure that I'm talking about mission. And then whatever it spits back at me is what I did. It's my first draft. It's my second draft.
Yeah.
And I'm the one editing it from there. And once I edit it, I typically hit send and get it out the door. Because here's the thing, Cynthia, that I can't emphasize enough when it comes to AI. AI is a time-saving tool, flat out, period. I'm a one-person shop. I'm getting more done in a shorter period of time because I'll get that first draft in the AI. It will spit back what it is that I'm trying to
Nice.
say. It knows me now. Someone's mentioned that earlier. It knows me now, and it'll give me something. All I have to do is massage it a little, and I'm on to the next thing.
Nice. What other kind of questions do we have? I see Jenny talked about plan giving. She likes plan giving donors to self-identify. The easiest way to do that is to send them a direct mail about your plan giving program. And if they respond, they're qualified. If they respond, if they call the number in your plan giving brochure, that means they're interested, they have the ability to make a plan gift, and they want to learn more. What other any other questions, guys? If they're in chat, Sharon, please just let me know. If not, just unmute yourself.
Yeah, we're caught up with questions in the chat, unless I've
Good.
missed something, but please do unmute yourself if you have something. And we've got folks.
Anybody? Great. You guys are awesome. I hope I hope you get the notes and you'll read the notes. I did because of time pressures, I did skim over some things that I think are important, like community based fundraising as opposed to donor centric fundraising. I'm serious about that. Storytelling, I think, is so important. I love storytelling. I love reading them. Keep them short. Have that officer who wrote his story. Trust your clients and beneficiaries to write their stories. They'll write some really great stories about your work.
Mhm.
Of course, you edit it, and that's important.
Mhm. And they don't have to be long, elaborate stories.
No.
They can be 100 words, 200,
That's right.
200 words is a paragraph, 250.
Mhm.
So, I know sometimes if I get asked to write something, I'm like, oh, I'm intimidated by the project. But Jenny.
Yes, I just want to make a quick plug for any of you who are considering seeking your CFRE certification, that it is worth the process and you will want Jack by your side when you do so. So
Thank you.
keep that in mind and look for Jack's study sessions. They are invaluable. And James was a presenter at some of the sessions I attended. So James, thank you for all you did on my journey as well. So forgive me for butting in there, but I just wanted to
No worries.
plug.
Thank you. Sharon's a presenter coming up. I have about
am.
4 different presenters. Wairimu, James, just recently got her CFRE, and she's going to present in my next study group. Yeah, from Canada. She's from Winnipeg, I think. I think she's in Winnipeg, Janet. I think you're close to her. Any other questions, comments? Connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me emails. It's easy. It's my last name, first name at Gmail. And love to talk to you. If you have questions about anything, I love to, I'm a nerd. And so if you have a question about ethics or client giving, let's chat about it. I don't have all the answers, and nor do I have all the right answers. If I did, I would be writing books, and I'm not doing that, but I certainly like to discuss things. And Sharon, thank you so much for including me in the work that you do. I hope it's valuable, guys. You're going to get this PowerPoint whenever they send it out. And I am so indebted to all of you for doing the work that you do. And it's just really, really wonderful. All boats rise when
That's
you
right.
raise more money. All boats rise.
That's right. Well, thank you so, so much, Jack. Always just can't say enough good things. Love fest all around.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for coming. We will, I'll repeat it one last time. We will share the link to the recording and the PowerPoint the next day or so. And we wish you all good luck and hang in there. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Peace.